doesn't get mentioned a lot in some of the greatest horror movies ever because it's psychological, and for whatever reason, it did not get a national distribution. It did for a few months, then you wouldn't see it in the theaters. I read up a lot about it, watched it years later. It is called The Dead Zone, and it is an amazing movie starring Christopher Walken.
Yeah, and I did see The Dead Zone, but I got to be honest, it's been so long, you might have to kind of walk me through this one.
Guys, Christopher Walken plays an understated role here, and I say that as a compliment because when you think of Christopher Walken, you kind of think of a guy who's more of an alpha male. King of New York, any of his performances in SNL. This guy's usually the guy who, again, is kind of the leader of the pack. Not in this movie. He's playing a guy who actually almost dies in an accident and is able to see the future. He becomes a clairvoyant. And again, it kind of isn't just the typical clairvoyant type film where he can change the future or change the past. It affects him mentally to the point where he's almost near death. There's also a different story arc, so it's like you're watching two films in one. Two chapters in this film that transition so well and bleed so well into one another. Christopher Walken plays, again, a very mellow guy who's dealing with a gift that turns into a curse, Ray Lloyd.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm a huge fan of Christopher Walken. I mean, one of my favorite movies is Man on Fire with Denzel Washington. Of course, he plays a great supporting role in that. So, yeah, who's not a fan of Christopher Walken?
Is this going to be on your list now, The Dead Zone?
Oh, yeah. And I it's one of those where I know I watched it. It's just been so long. I'd really like to go back and watch it again, just because I do remember it being a great movie.
And if those that watched it remember, Martin Sheen was incredible in his role. Also, Gus Anselmo, of course, the original It. Skylar Nettles, you're right. The Running Man was a good Stephen King movie that no one thinks about. It's an amazing book if you read it. Dead Zone is a very, very good movie. Skylar Nettles, you will write about that 100%. J.C. Farina has a suggestion for all of us. Can I throw in one here, please? Because you said please, you will. Even though I don't like Robert De Niro, there's a 1983 movie called, of course, The King of Comedy.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro and Jerry Lewis, Rupert Lumpkin. An amazing movie. King of Comedy is one of De Niro's, I think, finest performances. And very ahead of its time. It talks about reality TV before we enter the world of reality TV. Good old Walken. Don't remember this movie. Tammy, watch it. You'll remember it, believe me, because Skylar Nettles says that he watches it at least once a year, and it's a pretty neat movie. I would agree with you, yeah. Michael Keaton will be in the new Batman. I heard about that. Joel Bateman. Elvis Martinez. Hello, Glacier. Haven't seen you since last year. That's from Elvis Martinez.
Elvis, good to see you, buddy.
We will move on with 80s movies that are criminally, in my opinion, underrated. Dead Zone is one of them. Let's keep playing some of the clips. You guys can get an idea. Maybe these clips will sell you on this film. There is a lot going on here. It's psychologically so amazingly done well. Walken plays it in a very understated kind of a manner. His level of patience as an actor is amazing. He listens really well. His timing is impeccable. And you'll get lost in the storyline within 20 minutes. It pulls you right in. Really does. It pulls you right in.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back and watch it.
Of course, this is the last scene. Don't want to give it away. There's Martin Sheen. You guys got to check this out. The next movie we have here is, as I cue it up to begin, Local Hero from 1983. A lot of people don't remember this film. Ray, do you remember Local Hero? Burt Lancaster stars in this film.
You know what? I mean, I remember it, but I never saw it. And I'm amazed I've never seen it because I'm a huge Burt Lancaster fan. But I have to say, I've never seen it.
Guys, I can't really give the plot away if you haven't seen it, but trust me, this is a film that speaks to you regardless of whether you're a fan of a certain genre or not. The storyline is great, and of course, right now we morph into a film that actually has a lot of people morphing into creatures. In my opinion, I've never heard anybody say this, but the latter exemplifies what I think this film could have been. It might have been the sequel to The Thing. What would have happened if that creature, under the ice, buried thousands of years ago, actually spread its proverbial wings and took hold of America? Maybe this would happen. Maybe this is the unofficial sequel. It's called They Live, Roddy Piper.
Ha-ha! Yes.
One of the greatest films. Ray Lloyd, this film, when we were in StarCast, won the tournament of wrestling-related projects.
I forgot. You're right, yeah. And once again, I was so thrilled and honored, me and Luther both, to get to know Roddy Piper on the professional level as far as wrestling. But just, our film, like I said, is in my opinion, is The Magnificent Seven meets They Live. And
yes.
and Luther and I are both big fans of John Carpenter. We really tried to shoot this movie in a John Carpenter style with deep colors and his type of edits, his type of camera angles. So there's a lot that's going into our film to really pay homage to Roddy Piper and to John Carpenter in this film.
An amazing film. And I read Didn't really read this anywhere. I kind of just my own little hypothesis because I'm a John Carpenter nut like Ray Lloyd is, and it's kind of interesting to know that since this came out 5 years after The Thing, who knows? Came out of the mind of John Carpenter. Maybe this is what happens when The Thing takes over.
Yeah.
Maybe it takes over the. And Skylar Nettles says it's a cool movie regardless of it including a wrestling legend. Well, you know what? There's a story there, Skylar, and I know Ray knows this. I remember speaking about this with Ray Lloyd probably on the phone last year.
Yeah.
John Carpenter was looking for an everyday man. Not an action film star, as Ray brought up earlier, as it pertains to the antagonist and the replaceables. John Carpenter had that same mindset for his protagonist, a character named Nada for They Live. And there's a reason why he's called Nada. It's because he's an everyday man. He's a nothing, like all of us. An everything, like all of us. He's not someone you familiarize yourself with, so he was looking for someone that wasn't as distinguished as an actor. So he knocked on Roddy Piper's door, and the rest is history. He played an iconic character in this film, Ray.
And here's what I love about Roddy Piper's performance is if you know Roddy Piper as Rowdy Roddy Piper, that's not the guy you see in this movie. I mean, he's very, very quiet, very reserved. Everything is very methodical and calculated, but very, very conservative in his movements and his speech and everything. And that's not who the wrestling character of him is. So,
Sure.
So anyway, yeah, and that's what I love about Roddy Piper in this movie because I don't know if this was his first movie, but I think it was the first one where people realized that he actually was a pretty darn good actor.
Without question. We have Gus saying, I want to see Walken play an older Elvis in a film where Elvis Presley faked his death and went to the Witness Protection Program. That'd be a great idea for a screenplay, actually.
Yeah.
Elvis says, well, no, I think this is Gus again. I'll bring up this comment in a minute. Regarding Roddy Piper and They Live, this has so many dimensions, this film. Something for everyone on these labor of loves. Thank you so much. You're talking about our shows. Yeah, guys, the real LOL for me is not laugh out loud. It's called Labor of Love. That's what it stands for me. Tony Stark does not remember this one. Check it out, and you'll love it. You'll never forget it after you watch it once. Elvis, The Outsiders, and Stand and Deliver are two great movies. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could watch Stand and Deliver and Lean on Me in succession, back to back, kind of
Yes.
the same genre there.
Yeah.
Joel Bateman, and I do want to bring this up. We lost a day after Ray Lloyd and I spoke about Lean on Me, and a day after Ray Lloyd let me know that the person Morgan Freeman was portraying was on set during Lean on Me.
Yeah.
A day after he passed.
Yeah,
So when I was
saw
doing
that
Maintaining
too.
the Truth, I saw, and I just thought of you when that happened.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I saw it on the news here, and I was like, oh my gosh, wow, But
Yeah.
but I think he was He was in his 80s. Obviously, led
Sure.
a very good life, very full life. Left a great mark. And I think that's what we all would hope to do is leave a great mark on this world.
Absolutely. Joel Bateman didn't see it. Good old Bert from Waycross. You're talking about the previous clip that I played. J.C. Farina, speaking of Lancaster, a 1981 movie called Atlantic City. Yeah, was phenomenal with a very young Susan Sarandon. Yes, she was young, one of those. It's kind of hard to believe, but she was.
Yeah.
Cool. This is another comment here from Gus. Not going to bring this up, Gus. Got a little profanity in there, but I see what you're saying. Tony, we love Gus. Gus is great. But Lean on Me is so iconic. Roddy was awesome in this movie. Great flick. Hot Rod ruled in this one, so I guess Tony did see this. We will move on right now and continue with underrated movies of the 80s. And, of course, the Bubblegum line is coming up, Ray. Right here in about 2 seconds. Here we go. I came here for two reasons. To chew bubblegum and kick butt, and I'm all out of bubblegum. That's what he was there for. Now we transition.
And that's such a, even if people haven't seen the movie, they probably heard that line. And I think that's so cool when a line like that, lives on, and outlives the person, and I just think that's so cool that that line will carry on long after, the great Roddy Piper has been gone.
You're big on legacies, Ray.
Oh, yeah. That's a big reason why we made this movie. I want our movie to be able to entertain people, hopefully 10, 20, 30 years from now.
It definitely will. Even though, and guys, talking about how, Ray Lloyd said that he wanted to always, he was hoping that Kevin Kline would always remember him. I think Ray Lloyd should be more concerned if Avi Klein will always remember him. But of course,
I am, of course, you know that.
Avi Klein will always remember Ray Lloyd, and everybody will always remember the Replaceables because of Ray Lloyd.
I hope so.
Let's transition to Thief. Do you remember watching Thief?
Thief, yes, I do. With
James Caan.
James Caan, yeah. Once again, it's been so long since I've seen it. Unfortunately, I don't remember a lot about it. I just remember I really enjoyed it because it was James Caan.
And you know what I like about this movie, guys? The way it was shot. There's Willie Nelson, who had a really good role in Thief. And it was shot so well, almost in a very creepy way. A young James Belushi's there, also his first full feature film before he was on SNL. Not John Belushi, James Belushi. Really, really criminally underrated film. James Caan, I think this was kind of his comeback performance after the Godfather films. He didn't toil around exactly, but he carried this film on his shoulders, Ray.
Wow. Yeah, and you can imagine how hard it would be to break away from the Godfather,
stigma.
That brand. Yeah, I mean, and James Caan to me is just, he's one of those guys. He's one of there's a very small group of that legendary Hollywood tough guys,
Yes.
And wasn't necessarily a big guy, but and he's still around, thank God. One of the people I'd love to meet, but he was always a tough guy.
Always a tough guy.
You knew he always portrayed himself as, and like I said, the tough guys are the ones who don't necessarily have to act tough. They just have those mannerisms that man, if you're going to take on that guy, you better bring a lunch.
A lot of those guys, I think of like Charles Bronson, even when he was older. Of course, when he was younger, he was a big guy, but when he was younger, just had that look. There was something about him.
Yep.
Joel Bateman, Thief, didn't see it. Brandon Benefield, sorry I'm late to the party. Just wanted to pop in and say hello. Hello to you back.
Yeah.
Good that you popped in. Always, we appreciate you when you do. Tony Stark, wow, great flick. Need to rewatch it. Give it a shot. JC Farina, James Caan was great in the movie Misery with Kathy Bates. Yes, he was.
Oh, yeah. And,
yes,
and like I said, too, I mean, with these films, going back to what I just said about James Caan, Charles Bronson, a lot of those, Steve McQueen, Yul Brynner, James Colburn, all these guys that we kind of looked at when we were making our film, based on all these guys were considered the Hollywood tough guys. And the one thing that I always felt like
Lee Marvin,
they all had this thing in common where they understood the power of stillness. And in our movie, we really concentrate on certain characters in our film displaying that power of stillness, which does help the audience realize that this person is a very confident, very tough guy, but he doesn't have to go spout that to the world. You just know by the way he moves and when he doesn't move.
It's a very good point.
Yeah.
Skylar Nettles, James Caan in Misery was another good one. James Caan, brilliant actor. Lee Marvin, The Dirty Dozen is a classic. Let's go back to the replaceables for 1 minute, guys. We'll go back to these movies. That is what I noticed about your film, is that you were, yes, of course you've got a great resume as an actor and a great resume as a writer, and also you're producing this film and you pretty much do it all. But the one thing I want to bring up is the fact that you're also a fan of film.
Yes.
You're very passionate of film. You're a student of film. You're a student of some of the classics. And for you to implement some of those qualities and take away some great moments and utilize them for your own film, I think that's the most original thing in the world. Because a lot of times people will say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. But you made everything your own in the replaceables. When people watch the replaceables, they're not going to say, well, it's a takeaway from 5 different films. They're going to know that the brand that you created is original in of itself, Ray Lloyd.
Thanks, Avi, so much, and I give so much credit to my producing partner Luther Biggs, who came up with this original concept literally about 12 years ago, and he and we constantly collaborate. Literally every single day we talk about it, and so when you're talking about two people who are totally committed to this film, but the other thing too is like every single character in this movie, especially the wrestling characters, we knew that we had to make these characters very distinctive, very authentic. So that when our audience, which is the wrestling audience, when they see this film, it will be believable to them. And hopefully it'll make them care about the characters, just like we do in wrestling, to where they care about the journey they go on.
Absolutely.
And the things that they have to overcome on that journey. So it's everything that I can say this. And one of the things that I learned in this process, and I always give credit where credit is due, even though we ended up kind of having a different vision, is Rob Pralgo, a friend of mine, Luther, who directed the film, who really did a good job coaching a lot of the actors, me included. One of the things that I took from the coaching was that my character, Jock Holliday, who's kind of the leader of the bunch, unofficial leader. Everybody kind of looks to him. No one ever really officially proclaims him the leader.
Sure.
But he's the one that kind of gets everybody together and for this mission they go on.
Is it fair to say they look to him for leadership?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and no, I don't think so. I know so. But the thing is that I realized that my character had to be the one who always is calm. He's the guy who always settles everybody down. If he can't show that he's rattled, because if he's rattled, everyone else may get rattled too. So they look to him for, how's Jock handling this? And if Jock and I looked a lot to Roddy Piper's character, the Nada character, because in that movie, you never really see him get rattled. Even though he's up against a lot of crazy stuff, he always seems to be in control, and he's like, I'm not going to get